This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like you know to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon. Sometimes the most painful part of getting sick is the getting better part. Waiting on hold for an appointment, sitting in crowded waiting rooms, standing in line at the pharmacy, that's painful. Amazon One Medical and Amazon Pharmacy remove those painful parts of getting better with things like 24/7 virtual visits and prescriptions delivered to your door. Thanks to Amazon Pharmacy and Amazon One Medical, healthcare just got less painful.
Welcome into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett, and today we're looking at the 3 interviews the San Francisco 49ers have completed thus far as they search for their new special teams coordinator. They've had 3 thus far. Detroit Lions coach Jett Modkins, Chris Banjo, Broncos assistant special teams coordinator, and of course, Carolina Panthers interim head coach of a couple years ago, Chris Tabor. Going to break down every single one of them, finding out who exactly they are, what can they bring to the San Francisco 49ers in 2025, and do they have the pedigree to hopefully rejuvenate the league's second worst special teams unit in football just as of last year. That said, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave that review on the audio podcasting platforms, and let's dive into and dissect the 3 current interviewees of the San Francisco 49ers as they search for their next special teams coordinator. The first interview they had was, I believe, on Sunday, and it was Detroit Lions coach Jett Modkins. Now, that name may sound familiar because his father, Curtis, was actually San Francisco's offensive coordinator in 2015. Here's to hoping that Jett is better coach than his father was, despite the terrible talent San Francisco had in that season. Jett has been part of the Lions coaching staff since 2021. He was one of the first hires by Dan Campbell when they were tasked with fixing a terrible Lions organization at the time. But with Modkins in place as an unknown, kind of unlisted, doesn't have a certain title staff member, the Lions have seen quite the rise in success on special teams. In 2024, Modkins helped lead the Lions special teams to the number 1 ranked unit in football. If you look at DVOA, they were first. If you want to go to PFF, they had an 88.9 PFF grade. That ranks 4th in the NFL. And if you want to use the EPA metric as your standard for how great a special teams unit may have been, they were 5th with a plus 27.3 expected points added in 2024. So really good stuff by Jett Modkins. One of the drawbacks to him, I will say, is without knowing him much, because there isn't much out there about him, he didn't play in the NFL, although his father coached, and he's only been on an NFL staff since 2021. So there isn't this proven track record of, wow, he's been 4 different places and been great at every single one of them. It's really been more about a youthful coach trying to find his way in the NFL, starting on special teams. But that doesn't mean he's a bad pick. It just means that it's a risk if they choose to hire him. But there is a very important kind of key example as to why he might be a really good hire by the San Francisco 49ers, and may even be a reason as to why they interviewed him earlier this week. He is one of the people responsible for helping the Lions special teams unit, yes, but also what they've done via the return game on punts and kicks. A lot of that is contributed to what Modkins has done out there in the Motor City. He has been one of the sole responsible people for helping punt returner Khalif Raymond reach the All-Pro team last year, and seems to be one of the major factors into what the Lions do. Like, you have to think about this, that the Lions offense, Ben Johnson, Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, they can score from anywhere. Kind of like the San Francisco 49ers could in 2023 when they had CMC healthy and Ayuk was healthy and you had Kittle and Debo was looking like himself before. Very similar into how both those offenses were able to project and produce the last couple of years. Yet, one major thing the Lions have, the Niners haven't had, and I can't count how long, is a viable kick and punt returner. The last great, if you can call him that, special team returner the Niners had was Ted Ginn Jr., dating back to the Harbaugh era. It's like 14 years ago. It's a long time since San Francisco had a great special teams returner, but Jacob Cowing seems to be the lead for the role next year. Obviously did punts this year with San Francisco, and it seems like to me, you look at Modkins, and what is his kind of thing he holds his hat to and hangs his hat on? It's, I have led Khalif Raymond, helped Khalif Raymond become an all-pro returner. Well, I think that same thing goes for Modkins and Jacob Cowing. How can this team help Modkins bring Cowing to be an all-pro in 2025? The other name, the Niners talked to and interviewed was Denver Broncos assistant special teams coach Chris Banjo. Now, Banjo, although is young in his coaching career, having joined the Broncos, I believe, in 2023, so only 2 years as a coach under his belt, he has a decade of experience playing in the NFL. So there's certainly levels to this in regards to Modkins and Banjo. Modkins never played in the NFL, has only coached since 2021, whereas Banjo played a decade in the NFL with the Packers, the Saints, and the Arizona Cardinals as recent as 2022. He was a safety in the NFL, but he is primarily known for his contributions on special teams. He has just under 2,500 special teams snaps. If that is not valuable, I do not know what is. Because what Banjo can bring, at least from an optics perspective, is experience literally doing the job he's asking players to do. Hence why you see so many other players buy into former players' coaching of like, okay, you get me. You speak my lingo. You know exactly what I'm thinking here. I think Banjo could bring that to San Francisco's special teams. This year, 2024, as the assistant special teams coach, Banjo helped lead the Denver Broncos to a top 10 special teams unit. Look at their stats in regards to certain categories. On punt returns and kick returns, they ranked inside the top 10. On punt defense and kick return defense, they also ranked inside the top 10. And similar to Modkins, Banjo has played a key role into Marvin Mims Jr. ascension to the all-pro level as a punt returner this year. Mims in 2024 tallied 408 punt return yards, which is the second most in the NFL. He also averaged a league-leading 15.69 yards per punt return in 26 attempts. I don't think there's, it's not a coincidence that the San Francisco 49ers have talked to Banjo and Modkins, two guys, younger coaches. One of them have played a decade plus in the NFL that have also helped their return game incrementally increase when they've taken over, or at least been part of the staff. I cannot help but think, okay, you were pointing to Jacob Cowing. If you look at the roster next year, barring health, obviously, the Niners are slated to, as of right now, January 15th, to walk in the next season with Brandon Ayuk, although he'll be out for a period of time. Brandon Ayuk be the number one receiver. You have Debo Samuel. He's not going anywhere, seems like now. Ricky Pearsall looked great to end the season. He's probably your receiver 3 or 4 because Juwan Jennings was also so great as well. So Cowing at this moment slots in as receiver number 5, and that doesn't eliminate the idea or the possibility. They draft the receiver. They sign a receiver in free agency to kind of be a veteran option for them. So Cowing despite having the tools to be a viable receiver in the NFL, that he really has to kind of find his niche, hence why him being a punt returner makes a lot of sense, hence why San Francisco wanting to help him by interviewing Banjo and Modkins, who have had tremendous success with Raymond and Mims in Denver and Detroit. All that makes sense to me of trying to pair a young special teams coordinator and a young punt returner, hoping to make some magic in the return game. And also in return, if that actually works for you, no pun intended, you help your offense too. You gain better field positioning, giving Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, and many others on your offense a chance to score more points. If you score more points, you win more games. What can help you score more points? Getting in scoring position more often, getting in the red zone. Even if it's field goals, you still got to be able to score some points. And the unfortunate part is San Francisco's special teams unit was so bad last year. I do think it's a good opportunity to look at just how bad they were last year. We can talk all day about, Modkins can do this and Banjo can do that, and those are great things. Like, I want to improve this special teams unit, but to fully grasp how bad it was or how important getting the right guy in the building is, you have to look back to what was 2024. As fans, we know how terrible it was. We know that there were so many botched plays, missed field goals, terrible punt and kick coverages that while maybe the mistakes wouldn't have pushed San Francisco into the playoffs, it certainly wouldn't have hurt to have a few more wins on your record down the stretch of the season. My mind goes to the Vikings game early on and the Rams game early on, two early season games that could have maybe changed the way your season eventually ended, but you never know. Just you got to clean up a really bad unit that has caused and created too many mistakes. And according to EPA, expected points added, the San Francisco 49ers in 2024 had a league worst minus 64 points. They were the worst special teams unit in the league by missing field goals, giving away kick returns, missing punts, whatever it may be. They were the worst unit in football by a wide margin. If you're not an EPA person, how about DVOA? They ranked 31st, the second worst unit in football. Again, they are terrible, and they were terrible. One of the major problems we saw, not even dating back to last year, but even in 2023, was kicker Jake Moody. I will say this, that you could think what you want of Jake Moody the person. It is very clear that he will be back in 2025, albeit probably with some competition in the building, which makes sense after seeing what he did and how he performed in 2024, because as the current highest drafted kicker in football, Jake Moody finished last season with a 70.6 field goal percentage. That number is the second worst in field goal among kickers with 23 or more attempts. He was the second worst field goal kicker in football in 2024. Who can forget the 3 missed field goals against the Buccaneers, which I guess in retrospect, you kind of want to lose that game now since you're not going to the playoffs, but still, like, they won that game thanks to Pearsall and Purdy, but my goodness, like, you missed 3 kicks in a game that really shouldn't have been close, should have won pretty handily, a game that should have been 29-20, you won 23-20 because he couldn't get that sucker in the uprights to save his life. One of the major strengths that was supposed to be Jake Moody's was his leg. Oh, he has this amazing leg. He can kick with the best of them. It's like his leg is going to allow the San Francisco 49ers to score so many more points. And in theory, that's true. Jake Moody can kick really far. The issue is he's not accurate when he kicks really far. On kicks 40 yards or further, Jake Moody hit 10 of his 20 attempts in 2024. Yeah, do some quick math. That's 50% That was the worst among kickers last year. So the unit's terrible in itself. The field goal kicker's not making kicks. He's terrible from long distance. He's not making chip shots. Okay, how was the kickoff unit? Where did that rank? Oh, it was one of 7 units to allow a kickoff return for a touchdown this year. Okay, so your kick return defense isn't great. Your field goal kicker stinks. What about your punt coverage? Is your punt coverage any good? The San Francisco 49ers last year allowed 261 punt return yards. That ranked 11th in the NFL. They had 2 punters last year. Mitch Wishnowsky, he got hurt. Then they signed Pat O'Donnell. When splitting those snaps, the San Francisco 49ers had a dead last 39 net yards per punt. Don't forget, highest drafted kicker, highest drafted punter, and when he gets hurt, the guy you bring in isn't good either. Yikes. Okay, but how about, the net yards? Maybe it doesn't matter too much. Are you at least pinning opposing offenses inside their own 20? No, they're not. Amongst punters, this duo pinned just 20 punts inside the 20-yard line. That ranked 29th in football. Do some quick math. That ranks 4th worst in the NFL. So they're not great punters. They're not making field goals. They can't even cover kick returns. It's just a terrible, disastrous unit that honestly, no matter who they bring in, there really isn't any more they can go down. It's you can only go up. Maybe you go from 31st to 32nd in DVOA, but in theory and almost reality, you really can't get any worse than it was in 2024. Funny enough, Richard Hightower, the guy that Schneider replaced when they fired Hightower, I believe in 2021, he's doing a heck of a job in Chicago this year, looking like a real strength of a very young Bears team. But that's Modkins, that's Banjo. What can they bring to like I just listed out for you, a terrible Niners special teams unit? They can bring youth. Banjo can bring experience, playing the positions, being a gunner. He can tell the players, I have been in your shoes. I'm asking you exactly what I have done as a player, now a coach with the Broncos, and they can help Jacob Cowing do much. But there is one other candidate that was interviewed yesterday, I believe, or it was 2 days ago, maybe, that is former Carolina Panthers interim head coach and special teams coordinator Chris Tabor. Now, Tabor is on the opposite spectrum of Modkins and Banjo, which, one, I love that because it's telling you San Francisco is leaving no stone unturned, trying to find their next great, if you can call him that, special teams coordinator. If you don't know who Chris Tabor was, wouldn't blame you, but if you look at his coaching career from high school all the way until the NFL, he didn't coach last year, but he has 32 years of coaching experience from, again, high school, college, and in the NFL. He's coached 16 years in the NFL, starting in 2008 with the Chicago Bears. He then was a Cleveland Brown special teams coordinator from 2011 to 2017. In 2018, he went back to the Bears, and then in 2022, went to the Carolina Panthers, which is where he began as a special teams coordinator, but then got promoted to interim head coach, then fired because that team was terrible and they sucked. But I think when you talk about Chris Tabor, he brings so much experience to a group that desperately needs it. Well, we talked about defensive coordinators and Sala and Dennis Allen and Lou Anarumo and Gus Bradley and Jeff Ulbrich. Like, who would you want of those guys? I leaned heavily towards Dennis Allen because there was he has seen everything. He has faced everything. He's able to make his defense fit any shape, any box he needs to week by week, whereas other guys in that group really can't do that. A lot of them just run cover 3-4-3 defense and say, go out and get it, boys, which is great to a certain extent, but you need that experience. You need that lived life experience to help you be able to see and match everything you're going to see and go against as a special teams coordinator. But with Tabor's experience has come a ton of success. In his time with the Bears, albeit, it certainly helps to have Devin Hester, Hall of Famer, as your return man. Not going to knock him for that, but it certainly helps and definitely pads the stats for you. But with the Bears, the Tabor's unit, they ranked, they had 6,570 punt return yards and kick return yards. They led the NFL with 5,415. They also had the second highest kickoff return average at 25.1 yards, and they had the third spot for punt return defense, allowing only an average of 7.1 yards per punt. On the flip side, they had the fifth highest best punt return average at 10.4. So they're playing great punt return defense, great kick return defense, and themselves are out there running around, doing the job, getting their offense in better field position. Don't forget, I believe that he was the special teams coordinator. Tell me if I'm wrong here. Was he the special teams coordinator when they went to the Super Bowl against the Colts? That doesn't sound right. But either way, they're out there kicking the butt of every other special teams unit in football, with Tabor leading the charge with the Bears. They also had 6 total kick returns for touchdowns during that period. That ranked second in the NFL. He knows what he's doing, folks. Now in his time with the Browns, it's more so known because he and Kyle Shanahan crossed paths with Cleveland, in Cleveland, so there is a connection there, which may lead to Tabor getting the job when it's all said and done. But in Cleveland, Tabor still had a very successful run as their coordinator. He was one of 2 coaches ever. He led one of 2 teams ever in NFL history to have 2 specialists make the Pro Bowl in the same year. That being Joshua Cribbs, another great returner, and former Niner kicker Phil Dawson. So Tabor's out there coaching him up, and everywhere he's gone thus far besides the Panthers, which makes a lot of sense, he's creating Pro Bowl caliber seasons from his guys, from the people he has in place. And when you talk about experience, get this. If you combine Jett Modkins, Chris Banjo, those guys have 6 total years of coaching experience. If you want to lump in Nick Sorensen, too, great. I don't know what they're really doing with Nick. I know they're going to keep him around on the staff somewhere. There's rumors that he will get an interview for the special teams coordinator job, but it hasn't been confirmed yet. No one has seen any reports of that happening just yet. But unfortunately for Nick, when he was the Jacksonville Jaguars special teams coordinator in 2021, they were also dead last in football, so probably isn't the greatest idea to have Sorensen go from one of the worst ranked defenses in football, then say, hey, be our special teams coordinator, where he also, when he got a chance, was the worst in football as well. I digress. When you combine Modkins, Banjo, and Sorensen's coaching careers, 17 years. That is 1 year over half of what Tabor has as a coach at 32 years. I don't think that's a knock against young candidates, Modkins and Banjo. It just is what it is. I think it also is great that San Francisco, again, is leaving no stone unturned trying to find their next special teams coordinator. It was terrible last year. You can go back to previous years too. The fumble in the Super Bowl, like I know that we often applaud what they were doing on special teams against the Packers in the playoffs when Jordan Willis blocks the punt, Funga picks it up and scores a touchdown. I get that. But that's like the one great thing they've done. They blocked the kick this year, but it really didn't matter because they still sucked after that. So they really got to figure things out. And I think that the Niners, maybe this year's a little jaded, but there's so many coaching problems this year that no matter who they bring in, they really can't do anything to be like, oh, wow, how'd you get worse? But I think it'll be interesting to see what San Francisco does on their coaching staff this year, because the pressure is high as ever. You got to win something in the next couple of years, whether it's 2025 or 26, you got to win. If you don't, we're talking like heads are going to roll, whoever that may be, which maybe you want that. And while special teams isn't like the end-all be-all, it certainly is going to help you win games. Certainly is one of the reasons as to why the Lions are so good. The Broncos go to the playoffs because of partially how good their special teams unit is. And I think it's important for San Francisco. If you can just be average, give me the 14th ranked special teams unit in football. That's all I ask for. You have 14, you're probably going to win the Super Bowl, barring health and some good luck. Like, you don't have to have number 1. You don't have to have number 5. You don't have to be inside the top 10. Just give me average. Give me average. It's very rare someone says, I want to be average. And I'm asking the Niners, can you just be average for 1 year, 2 years, under whoever it is? I also do think that it is interesting that San Francisco elected to interview 2 younger coaches, Modkins and Banjo, because if you look at what Shanahan has said about special teams, and maybe this changes this year, but he's had the attitude of, I don't want to deal with it. Like, I don't want to be the person that worries about it. It is like the last thing on his mind when it comes to coaching. Hence why I think that Chris Tabor makes some sense. Again, he's coached for 32 years in the NFL, been wildly successful with the Bears and Browns, which Shanahan saw first person with Cleveland. To me, if the same mindset is there, like, I don't want to deal with this on game days, week to week, I have a feeling Chris Tabor might get the job. I don't think Sorensen will get it. I don't think, despite Banjo and Modkins maybe being awesome and qualified, I'm sure they are, I have a hard time believing they're going to go the youth movement route on special teams. I think Shanahan's like, look, if I can put you in a corner and turn you around, great. I ain't got to deal with you. I can put you in that weird thing they had in Matilda with the spikes in it for detention. If I can leave you in there and never hear from you, great. If I can put you in the Harry Potter closet under the stairs and never talk to you again, perfect. I want to do that to my special teams unit. I think he would. And that's why I think of the 3 candidates interviewed thus far, Chris Tabor makes a ton of sense. There is, though, again, this very clear connective thread of all of them. Modkins, Banjo, Tabor, not Sorensen. All of them have either led Hall of Fame or Pro Bowl / All-Pro caliber kick return and punt returners. I think San Francisco is trying to find ways to get their offense the football closer to midfield, give themselves some kick returns and punt returns, and find ways to make Jacob Cowing, who was one of the most dynamic speedsters coming out of last year's draft, actually like a playmaker in the NFL, because it seems like he might get buried on the wide receiver depth chart. And even then, take Cowing away for a second. If San Francisco is healthy next year, and if they can match Jordan Mason's offer he'll get as an RFA, they're going to have McCaffrey back. They're going to have Mason back. We'll see what happens with Mitchell. He'll probably not come back, but who knows? Grendo's going to be RB3 next year again. Okay, well, before he became the RB2 and eventually won late in the season, he was doing kick returns. So I wouldn't be shocked if they're saying, hey, we got to get these young, explosive running backs and receivers, guys that run 4-3, guys that are one cut and they're gone kind of players. We got to get these guys coached up. We got to get these guys some lanes to run in and help this unit, help this team for once, not hold it back. Too many times, like in this day and age, with the new kick return rule change, or the return rule change, you got to have a playmaker back there. They can't afford to have Debo back there anymore. He's got to be out there as a receiver day in, day out, game play in, play out, being what he can be for this offense, not as a kick returner. You want to be able to have your third string running back there. That's why the Cowboys with Turpin, he's not starting. He's a depth guy that makes a lot of sense. And so I'm hoping that whoever they bring in can actually give this offense and special teams some oomph. Benali P says, the Guerrero preseason punt return was so hopeful against the Raiders. Yeah, it was like, okay, like we're going to get that finally from this team and this unit. And then it went nowhere for a variety of reasons, obviously. But I'm hoping that, you can't be this explosive on offense with CMC and Ayuk and Debo and Kittle and even Purdy and Mason and just feel like you're a stick in the mud in the return game. Like, where is this electricity we've seen from these star players, or at least from these depth guys that can help you on offense? We have some more messages in here. Let's see. Papa J says, Sterling! What's going on, Papa J? Tommy Huxley says, no players get better under Nick Sorensen. How is he a good coach? Get rid of this guy. Some people aren't made to be head coaches. Some people aren't made to be offensive coordinators. Some people aren't made to be defensive coordinators. It doesn't seem like he's built to be a special teams coordinator either, but I do think Sorensen can add some value to this team, and I think ultimately keeping him around is simply just that, hey, we kind of screwed you last year. We're not going to fire you. You can go in the office corner somewhere and just sit there, and maybe you can, lock the door and we'll just give you a pay. Go ahead and we'll pay you every 2 weeks and say, hey, Sorensen's great, and kind of reestablish his credibility around the NFL. Let's see what else is in the YouTube chat. Papa J says, I'd bring in Robbie Gould as my special teams coordinator. I don't know even what Robbie Gould's doing nowadays. Is he coaching somewhere? I'm not sure. I don't hate Robbie. I just have no idea what he's doing right now. I also don't know if he'd want to come back. Things ended so awkwardly in San Francisco with him. Like, he was a really good kicker for a long time. And, like, one of the best of a generation. Like, one of the best. Like, we're talking, like, top 10. Like, he was one of the best kickers from the year, like, 2006 and beyond before he retired. But things ended on rocky terms with him. I don't even know if they offered him a job he'd want to come back. And also Coach Jake Moody, his replacement. Coaching high school. Okay. That makes some sense. But, yeah, I don't know. I do find it funny that, okay, Benali says that he's coaching and covering the Chicago sports. Okay. But, like, why would he leave Chicago and come to the Bay Area? I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Fluffy Ninja says here, rather off topic, but Pete Carroll for DC. No. I don't want him. He's old. Which, I guess, age means nothing in the NFL, nor should it. But I like Pete. I also disliked Pete a ton when he was in Seattle. That said, I don't think San Francisco is going to look at Pete Carroll. Maybe I'm wrong there. I know he coached here before, but I'd rather have Dennis Allen. Like, Dennis Allen is my wish. It is where my heart sits in regards to what this team should and hopefully will do with their defensive coordinator role. Another name here brought up, though, I think it's a great name, is 49 Problems, saying, rather have John Fassel from the Dallas Cowboys for special teams coordinator. I think it's a great move. I think there's so many names trotted out there, and I'm sure maybe as time progresses, they're going to be looking at more bigger names. There hasn't really been that big name outside of Saleh being connected to the team and interviewing with the team thus far. But I do think that John Fassel makes a ton of sense to bring into San Francisco. I'm not sure what they'll do in Dallas. The Cowboys are so confusing because they wanted to keep McCarthy, and they were actively blocking interviews from other teams wanting to talk to him. Then, like, they set a deadline for things for his contract to not expire, and then, like, they just let him go anyways. Didn't make any sense. But because of that, there are so many other coaches on that staff where their contracts also expired, and the fact whoever they bring in to be a head coach in Dallas, he may want entirely new staff members there with him and coaches. So Fassel could get fired, could be kept, could be let go. I don't see why you wouldn't at least cover all your bases. You already talked to Jett Modkins, who has literally 4 years of coaching experience and never played in the NFL. Why wouldn't you talk to John Fassel in Dallas, who has been one of the best coordinators in all of football since he got brought in to the league? I think he was in St. Louis for a little bit with the Rams. I know him from Dallas, but I think he was with the Rams for a while too. Maybe I'm wrong, but he's been great from day one. Benali P says here that she misses having a kicker that would get into fights with Jalen Ramsey. How do we get the energy back on special teams? That's one thing I will say about Robbie Gould is that for a kicker, for a small guy, he did not care. Like, he was like, look, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to warm up. And if you're in my way, I'm going to make you know about it. And if I'm in your way, you can get over it. Well, maybe that's somewhat disrespectful. I love the fact that Robbie Gould just said, look, this is my job. I have to be proactive and I have to make sure when I'm called upon, I'm making these kicks, unlike Jake Moody. So, you don't need that feistiness, if you will, but you certainly want to have the tenacity, the grit from a kicker. Like, I love when kickers get mad and they throw things and they have this, like, I'm still an athlete, I'm a competitor kind of mindset. Well, sometimes guys go about that in different ways. You have Jake Moody who's like, Hi, I'm Jake Moody. I kick balls and I can't make them half the time. But I'm really tiny and I'm really confident in myself. And it's like, what? Like, huh? You play in the NFL? And look, I love Jake. He's a really nice guy. I've been in the room with him. He's super respectful. It's no knock on him. It's just like, he has this very, like, nerdy, like, he's just along for the ride kind of mentality, or at least it's kind of the vibe I get from him. But, like, so far through 2 years, he's been a bust. So, I think that the Niners should really, whether it is sign a veteran kicker or honestly, I think San Francisco should bring in 2 kickers this year. You can draft a guy, you can sign a guy, whatever it is. You can get a UDFA, you can go to the AFL, whoever else is out there. Like, there's the Canadian football, like, Brandon Aubrey was out there kicking like in the parking lot. You can find guys anywhere. I'd bring in 2 or 3 guys and say, look, whoever wins, wins. You give him the old Joker Dark Knight style. Just break the freaking pool stick and say, here's one, here's the other. There's 3 of you. Whoever comes out alive gets the job. That's what I would do, honestly. It makes no sense to me. Papa J says here, he's eating chicken sauce all over his phone and pressing all the wrong buttons. You nasty. You nasty, Papa J. Put that phone down, brother. Put that phone down. Goodness gracious. 49 Problems says here, I think Fassel becomes a free agent since McCarthy is no longer in Dallas. I think so too. Again, there are like a lot of expiring contracts on that coaching staff. I'm not sure exactly who's in that grouping, but there certainly is many of them. I'm hoping Fassel's one. He'd be great. He would instantly become the number 1 choice to be this team's special teams coordinator, but they haven't talked to him yet. It's been Jett Modkins. It's been Chris Banjo, maybe Nick Sorensen, and it's been Chris Tabor. Getting back to Chris Tabor for 1 second here. The fact that he was an interim head coach, I do think makes him not more qualified, but certainly like makes me lean towards him being the guy. Like, just having that mentality of like, I was trusted to be a head coach for 6 weeks. Now, they sucked. They were 1-5 with Chris Tabor as a head coach, but still, that Panthers team was disgustingly bad with Frank Reich as the head coach. That said, it just feels like things are leaning towards Chris Tabor. And if they can get special teams right, and they can get the defense right, you're looking at a pretty good Niners team, barring health, next year. Benali P says, need Jake Moody to have beef with Rick Woolen. Maybe that'll help with his kicking. Sometimes, it's like you're watching Dodgeball, right? What a great movie. And they need the little short, stout, chunky guy to get angry at his wife, and he has to get this rage of dude, your wife thinks you're a loser. Your kids hate you. Get mad. You gotta get angry. You gotta get mean. You gotta have that as a kicker sometimes. I want to see Jake Moody with the goggles and the gloves and the nerdy look, just getting angry as a kicker. I would love that. Him running up to the line and dodgeball screaming. I want Jake Moody to do that for this Niners team because, man, yes, shout out Rip Torn. Great movie. Patches O'Houlihan out there with Vince Vaughn and company with the Average Joe's Gym. Great movie. My wife and I, we weren't even dating at the time. I was in her apartment in college with her friends, and we were watching Dodgeball. I was laying on the floor. I fell asleep to watching Dodgeball, and to this day, she will always tell me, it's the worst movie ever. I hated it. It's terrible, and you were snoring on the ground. I didn't even like you then. And I'm like, hey, babe, I'm sorry, but Dodgeball is great, and you're wrong. How do you not love Dodgeball? It's so good. So good. Every Ben Stiller quote is phenomenal. This is laser, taser, phaser. Michelle. So great. So great. Nobody makes me bleed my own blood. So good. Great movie. But I want to see if Benali, if we can go back to your point here, I want to see Jake Moody show some hey, I'm not just some nerdy, small framed kid. I can go out there and I can kick some butt too. Maybe not like Nick Bosa or Javon Hargrave or Fred Warner can, but I can certainly give you something to work with here as a kicker. I mean, dude got hurt fielding kicks. Dude sprained his ankle on kick returns. And so did Matthew Wright. Back-to-back weeks. Seattle, I think against the Cardinals, just bang, bang. It was done. But still. Tommy Huxley says here in the YouTube chat, if Saleh wants to end his career, he should accept the Dallas Cowboys head coaching job. The one thing about being the Dallas Cowboys head coach, they don't fire people. It takes a long time for them to fire people. Wade Phillips was there for a long time. Jason Garrett was there for a long time. And, no success was happening. They were really bad or, painfully average for a long time. They get McCarthy in there. They were going to bring him back this year. If Saleh takes that job or gets that job, he'll be there for a decade. He'll be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys for a decade. They don't fire people. I would not be shocked to watch Saleh out-coach Jerry Jones's lifetime. They're just so, same old, by the book. Saleh wouldn't end his career. He'd have a 10 and 20-plus coaching year career out there in Jerry's world. Tommy Huxley says here, Jake Moody had his books dropped at school. Jake Moody is a great guy. I'm sure he's a nice dude. If you told me, hey Sterling, of any player on the San Francisco 49ers, who do you think got shoved into a locker and tossed in the trash can? It is undoubtedly Jake Moody. Again, the nicest guy. He probably writes poetry and he makes anklets on his spare time. Great guy. But for a fact, he was getting shoved in lockers in high school and in middle school by the school bullies. But again, love Jake. Great guy. But Ollie P says here, being there forever is almost as worse. You have to put up with Jerry for that long. I mean, sure, but you're getting paid a ton of money. Stadium's always packed. There really isn't pressure to win, which is so crazy because there should be. So I know we're kind of off track here in regards to special teams and whatnot, but if Saleh takes that job, I'm telling you, for as bad as it might be, for as controlling as Jerry may be at times, and for, just how off things have been in Dallas for 30 years. Like, if he gets that job, you're looking at Saleh in blue and silver, whatever their colors are, with the star on his and his hat for like the next 15 years. It's just how it goes. Like, and also, like, it would be awesome. Awesome. The reasoning, because if Robert Saleh takes that Dallas Cowboys job, the rivalry when Saleh and Shanahan face off is going to be incredible. I don't think they got a chance to play or face off against each other post 2020, right? No. Yep, this year, week 1, I'm dumb. I apologize, but it's one time. And it's like the Jets, no one really cares. Aaron Rodgers, sure, back in the day, but like Saleh in Dallas, Shanahan in San Francisco, that would be awesome to watch, at least on paper. Bobo says here, Jerry Jones won't be around for 15 more years. I mean, you're probably right, but still. Did you see him acting in that show? I don't know what show it was. Jerry Jones got some chops. Jerry Jones got some chops, man. I don't know what show it was. It was like a Billy Bob Thornton and John Hamm and Jerry Jones out there just making me say, why isn't he getting Oscar nominations? He was so good in whatever show that was. Tommy Huxley says Money Mitch is probably gone after next year, I'm assuming. He had a terrible season this year. Mitch Wisnowski was not very good this year, but he has shown in previous years, like 2023, he was awesome. 2022, really good. So I don't think that, one bad year is like, oh, we're done with you. But I do think that once he's fully healthy and hopefully can stay that way, they'll be all right. Yes, the Saleh and Trey versus Kyle Shanahan, Brock Purdy annual revenge game would be must-watch television. One, because if Trey Lance plays quarterback, they're losing by like 40. Like, he's just not been good whenever he gets a chance, albeit he hasn't got many chances thus far in his career. That said, it'd be so fun to watch. Like, NBC, primetime on Peacock, Sunday Night Football, ESPN, Monday Night Football, Amazon Prime, Thursday Night Football. It don't matter. I will be locked in no matter what. Bobo says here, and we'll end on this one. I want a ring because we accomplished everything else except that. Can Kyle deliver it? But 9 years, I'm not sure he can. Can Kyle Shanahan win a Super Bowl? Yes. Will he ever? I don't know. We're kind of banking on the Andy Reid, circle of life here for him to kind of compare the two. So many failures in your past lead you to success in your future. There was an article in The Athletic yesterday by Jeff Howe, and he was talking to a former Patriots assistant coach, and he was talking about how Kyle Shanahan, if he got fired today, would get a job in 30 seconds. And with that, he said the one thing you can't have happen, because Shanahan's so great, if he's gone, then he'll go win. And this guy predicted this, which may mean nothing when it's all said and done. But he said, I believe Kyle Shanahan will win 3 Super Bowls as a head coach. And it's hard. I get we're kind of jaded here in the Bay Area, like, oh, well, he's lost 2 and like all that stuff. But he's been to 2 as a head coach. And in the first one, they were like 1 throw away. The second one, they're a muffed punt really away from winning. They're a defensive stop or an offensive touchdown, depending on how you view it, in overtime from winning. Now, he has many faults, not running the football, not knowing the rules in overtime. All that stuff matters and is true. But it's really hard to get there. It's also really hard to win. Part of me just thinks, man, if they got lucky in 2021 and got there, they probably would have beat the Bengals. If they would have gotten there maybe in 2022, had Brock Purdy been healthy, they probably would have beat the Chiefs that year. I think that defense was just so good, and the depth was so much better. You have Mooney Ward, Lenore's butting into a Star Ufunga was great. Like, you had, I think, a better team in 2022 than 2023, which sounds crazy. Maybe there was, like, Ayuk was much better in 2023, obviously, but, like, I think a better defense as a whole. Like, they probably would have beat Kansas City in 2022. They just kind of get the years wrong of when they're going, right? Like, you had KC get hot last year towards the end, thanks to the Ravens and the Bills blowing it, but they just got hot at the wrong, like, they just picking the wrong years to go. If you go in 2021 and 2022, you probably win. I will say this, though, to your point, Bobo, while the seat is not hot, it is certainly on simmer. And every game they lose, every year that passes, mainly this year, and they don't win, it's turned up to low. Then it gets turned up to medium. Then it gets turned up to 11. And it's like, holy crap. I think Shanahan has 2 years to get this thing in the bag. Barring context, they have 2 years to win the Lombardi Trophy. If they don't, then I think that's a problem. 49 Problems says, Niners have the easiest schedule next year and hosting Super Bowl 60. Saleh should really take the job in San Francisco as DC. Saleh should take it, I think so. I don't want him. He's my 3rd/4th option of my choices. I'd much rather have Dennis Allen. I'd much rather have Matt Eberflus for different reasons. Saleh's great, not knocking him whatsoever, but he feels like a one and done. Comes here for a year, then leaves again. I don't want that, but for his sake, I see no reason as to why you wouldn't come back, because it makes all the sense in the world. Comfortability, commonality, same players, same team, similar coaching staffs. Like, everything feels like it was when you first started your coaching career in San Francisco once again. But I think that's a great place to end, because right now the San Francisco 49ers don't have a defensive coordinator. We'll see what happens in the future. They also currently do not have a special teams coordinator, but they've interviewed 3 candidates: Lions coach Jett Modkins, Denver Broncos coach Chris Banjo, and former Panthers interim head coach and special teams coordinator Chris Tabor. Of those 3, who would you pick? Tell me down below in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Want to thank Benali P, 49 Problems, Bobo, Papa J, Tommy Huxley, and many more in the YouTube chat. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Fluffy Ninja also in there. Again, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can follow us on social media at 49ers_access is the X or the Twitter. 49ers.access is the Instagram. And if you're like myself, trying to frickin' buy some tickets to Dodgers Cubs in the Tokyo Dome come March, go to SeatGeek.com. Pick out concert tickets, MLB tickets, NFL tickets for next year, NBA tickets, and whatever seat you pick, put in promo code 49ERS-ACCESS, 49 ERS ACCESS at SeatGeek.com to save yourself $20 off your first purchase. You can also go to SportsSpyder.com for your team's favorite, or your favorite team's latest news, podcasts, and articles. And if you could, go to theheavy.com. I'm writing there every single day. So much content's coming out there on theheavy.com, covering Niners and Packers stuff. You don't want to miss that as well. But that's all I have for you today. Have a great rest of your week. I'm sure I'll talk to you very, very soon. But until next time, my name is Sterling Bennett, and as always, stay faithful.